In the previous episode we showed you the beauty of the stunning Isles of Scilly and some of its history. Join us now as we return to the mainland and prepare the boat and ourselves to get ready to cross the mighty Bay of Biscay. This is Intrepid Bear, a 40-foot sailboat off to explore the world with her crew Iain and Kate.
Come aboard and let's see what's out there.
You join us as we exit the islands in a fresh northerly wind which is kicking up quite a chop, giving the decks a good wash.
Fortunately, it wasn't long before we turned to the east and hoisted the sails, which always helps to steady the boat.
We've got some sails up. It was a little bit rough to film it. It's a little bit lumpy out here. I had a little bit of drama in that the lazy jacks which hold up the sail bag have broken on the port side, so the sail bag's dangling down at the moment. And that's it flapping there. That'll be a bit of a problem for stowing the sail later, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We're currently just motoring across the top of the island. It's got a lot of tide. The engine's still running with the sails just to keep us away from the shore, but once we clear the point we should stop the engine and bear away a little bit down towards the Lizard. We're almost at that point now, so it should be fine. A little bit rolly out here, but the boat's handling it nicely. Okay, so I've taken a halyard to the lazy jacks because there was still some lazy, most of them were together, it's just the lift that was broken. Can quite easily be put back together once we can get up the mast. But I've got a halyard on it for now. It doesn't quite go high enough because it's only the mid-mast halyard, but it's enough to keep it up and stop it flapping. So it's roughly jury-rigged and should be alright to drop the sail into when we eventually get there. So that's good. That should do for now, and then once we're in flat water tomorrow, then I can get up the mast and sort it out. Most of the initial choppiness of the sea was down to the interaction of the tide and wind around the islands. So once in open water it settled down into a lovely sail with just the right amount of wind from the north. So we settled into the passage with little to do except keep watch and avoid the big ships in the TSS.
Is that you reporting to the traffic separation, Evert?
A TSS is a traffic separation scheme marked on a chart in busy areas where there are strict rules to ensure big ships don't collide with each other or leisure boats. In the open sea, power vessels should give way to sail regardless of size, but in a TSS this is not the case. So in the distance over there there's a big cruise ship called the MSC Virtuoso. They've just called us up because the closest point of approach showing on the AIS, the automatic identification system, is showing us as passing quite close. They've just called us quite politely to remind us that we need to keep out of their way because we're in a traffic separation zone. We're aware of that, and we've just slowed down a little bit to make sure there's a bit more of a gap, and we'll let them go well ahead of us, and then we'll carry on, put the power back on and keep going. But yeah, they called us first of all, so we'll make sure we stay clear. Also, they're bigger than us. So what I've done is I've plotted an intercept with this liner on the chart plotter. The chart plotter is currently showing us a CPA, which is the closest point of approach, of 0.4 nautical miles. So it's quite close, but it also says that we can't intercept it because the chart plotter can calculate whether we can intercept or not. It says we can't intercept unless we go faster. So that tells me that the boat is going to pass ahead of us, otherwise we would be able to intercept it. So the liner will pass right in front of us, and the chart plotter tells us that the TCPA, the time to the closest point of approach, is 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So in 5 minutes 30 seconds time, roughly, as it changes with our speed, we will intercept this liner. Sorry, won't intercept the liner will pass in front of us and we should be clear. So there she goes, clear ahead of us. We can pull the sails back in now and get back up to speed. Not that we slow down a lot, but we slack the sails off so the boat would slow down a bit, which would allow a bit more room. So now we'll pull the sails back to where we had them, get them trimmed up again. Final approach into Helford. It's 20 to 10 in the evening, so it's getting dark. There's quite a few boats anchored in here, but there'll still be room. So a fairly uneventful sail, really nice broad reach most of the way across, and then turned up into it as we come up from the Lizard towards Helford. And so really nice. Yeah, I'm just going to drop the hook and then it'll be sleepy time. Maybe it'll be wine time, who knows.
Then began a few weeks of upgrades, checking and preparations, all to get ready to cross the Bay of Biscay. What you doing?
These are our new dinghy davits. You remember earlier in Dartmouth we said it was alright to be pumping the dinghy up and down all the time? Yeah, a month or two later, maybe not. So these are a pair of davits that swing out like that at the back of the boat to clear the sugar scoop stern.
Ooh, shiny.
Once again with feeling.
Ooh, shiny.
After nearly a month in the islands, there was also quite a lot of shopping to do to stock the boat back up. During our time in Falmouth, Kate had a week away from the boat to spend time with her family, leaving me to get on with some jobs on my own. Good morning. So while Kate's away, I've got a couple of days where I'm just going to go and visit my mum who lives nearby in Cornwall. So I've got to take the boat and dock it myself over in Mile Yacht Harbour. So the first thing that's important about single-handed docking, or any docking, is to find out as much as you can about where you're going. So I've called Mile Yacht Harbour and they've actually allocated me berth C15. And said they mentioned the hammerhead. So I've looked in the Reed's Marina guide. It's really handy because it's got little maps of all of the marinas, that one being Milo Yacht Harbour. That one doesn't give me too much of a clue. Well, it does give me a clue, but it could be one of two berths and that could affect which way I'm going in. So I then searched online and I can find out, and it then appears that you've got individual berths, and I'll just put a picture of that up to show you what I found online. That's the Marina site map. And that actually shows Charlie 15 is right on the hammerhead. They've said port side 2. So Charlie 15, port side 2 is this hammerhead here. So I've got to come in the entrance and go port side 2 there. Okay, so I don't need to worry about any boats on my starboard side, so I don't need to fender up this starboard side. And I know from where I am at the moment, the wind is blowing easterly. So the wind's coming across here. So there's a component of the wind that will be pushing me onto that berth. So all I've got to come and do really is swing round, let the boat stop using the propeller, allow it to stop, and the wind will actually just ferry glide me and just push me in sideways onto the berth. So what I'll do is I'll have a stern line ready with a loop that I can just drop on with a boat hook or give to any handy passing person. Drop the stern line on, motor forward against it, as you've seen us do a few times in the past, and hopefully it should be nice and smooth. You've always got to bear in mind that might not actually be Charlie 15, the map might be wrong. You've got to give yourself time to sort things out. As it turned out, conditions were near perfect, so there was no need for the boat hook and I just hopped ashore. Okay, pontoon's not quite long enough for the bow line to go forward, it has to come aft. So from the bow back aft is not perfect, but in these conditions it'll be fine. Spring line to midships cleat, boat can't roll backwards. Stern line that we're using to hold ourselves in, and that also stops the boat going forward. So she's good. The next morning, before it got too hot, it was time to do the first job before going off to visit Mum. Okay, so the next pre-Biscay job is a quick rigging check. So we're up here Having a look at everything now. So I'm just checking at the top of the mast, excuse me, squinting into the sun. Checking at the top of the mast first of all that all the pins are in. And everything looks secure. All the sheaves, these are these bits, the rollers, for want of a better word. Rollers are called sheaves, making sure they're in. And then as I come down the mast, checking every one of these terminals, every one of these, make sure there's no loose wires. Give it a pick with a pin thing in a minute, but I've got one hand on the camera and one hand on here. Make sure the pins are locked in at the back, and this is all secure, and there's no cracks around any of this. So that's what I'm doing this morning. All the rigging checked out really well. If you want to find out how I climbed the mast, check out an earlier video I made, which will be linked above right now. And then a few days at Mum's house. And a word of warning to anyone who might be having sailors come to visit. If they ask you if they can have a few parcels delivered. Now all those parcels look a lot like Christmas, but each one is a job to be done, most of them safety related. And the first one is to fit some extra bits of equipment to our life jackets. So first of all, I'll just quickly show you what we've already got on our life jackets and open it up. So this is my life jacket. So it has a loop here which you attach a harness to keep you attached to the deck. Full harness, and these are crotch straps, so they go around underneath your legs to stop the life jacket riding up. I also keep a knife on mine. So in these front pouches we've both got these devices here. This is a McMurdo Fast Find personal locator beacon. Now this is a personal EPIRB. An EPIRB is an emergency position indicating radio beacon, and what that does is it will send a signal from anywhere in the world to the rescue services that you're in distress of. But it's probably still going to take a good few hours, maybe many hours, to get rescued if you are in open ocean, because it will take hours to get a ship or an aircraft to you. So the best thing that you can do is, if you fall off the boat, is you need to get back on the boat, and the boat needs to be able to find you. So the next piece of equipment that we're fitting is this is an MOB1, and this device is, which also goes inside the life jacket, is a personal AIS locator beacon. Now AIS is the automatic identification system, which you've seen on some of our videos, which shows the little green blobs on the chart plotter. Well, this actually will send an AIS signal. At this point we risk going into far too much detail. In short, the AIS beacon sends a signal back to the boat and is good for about 5 miles to help the boat you fell off find you. The personal locator beacon sends a signal worldwide via satellite to get big ships to come and rescue you if your own boat is not able to do so. When this inflates, the pressure on this tape will simply pull that off, the antenna will come out, and away it will go, sending your position to the boat that you just fell off. So now I've just got to put the life jacket back together, and that is a fun game. So. Two other quick jobs before Kate gets back. Bilge high water alarms fore and aft for early warning of water ingress. And 2 high capacity emergency pumps with base plates glued in for quick deployment. The only way I could easily test them was in the shower tray. And before you know it, Kate was back and did an amazing job on sorting out the emergency grab bag. But being camera shy, she left it to me to talk about it. Just getting some stuff ready for the grab bag, which is all of this gear here. Grab bag is basically an emergency ditch bag, so if you've got to get off the boat in a hurry, then you grab the bag and it's got everything in it that you need or would want, so all our important documents. Safety gear, so we've got our survival suits there, 2 survival suits, 1 each, first aid equipment, various other bits and pieces, thermal protective aid, VHF radio, GPS, compass. Yeah, that's not the full list, and there's more to go, like there'll be some food and some water. We'll have that in a handy place as we cross the Bay of Biscay, or any open ocean crossing, and it's there ready just in case the worst happens, which obviously we hope it doesn't.
All work and no sailing makes for a dull life, so sometimes you've just got to go to sea. Enjoy this montage of Falmouth whilst we get the boat ready for a little sail.
Okay, so this morning we're out in Falmouth Bay. So we've come out to teach ourselves bits and pieces, practice things we've never done. And at the moment we're hove to. And that means that we've got the Genoa, the main sail, the head sail is backed. That means it's effectively tied to the wrong side of the boat. And that's trying to force the bow of the boat down wind. And then we've got the rudder hard to port on this occasion, which is trying to force the bow upwind. And the mainsail sheeted in tight, which also tries to force the bow upwind. So all those forces balance out and we end up sat quite steady in the water with pressure in the sails, but not going very far forward. I'll just show you the Genoa back. So it's kind of sheeted on the port side, but is actually out over the starboard side. So the wind's on the wrong side effectively. So that's hove to.
And why would we want to hove to?
Heaving to is really useful for if you're smashing through the waves and everything's crashing around and you want to get something done. You can effectively park the boat because it will just stop. It creates a slick upwind of you with the water coming under the boat and welling up because you're almost slipping sideways. So you park the boat, and if you're having a rough time, it settles everything down so you can have a cup of tea or your lunch or just a rest. So another thing we're going to practice, because we've never done it before, is sailing under the working jib. The working jib is a much smaller sail that goes at the front, and it goes on a separate inner forestay, which I'll show you how we rig another time because I've already rigged it up. So at the front now you've got the forestay, which the big Genoa is on, which is still there. And then inside of that you can see we've already got rigged the inner forestay. It's called a removable inner forestay, and that's where we hoist the working jib, which is all piled up on the deck there at the moment. We'll hoist it inside of the Genoa for now, and then we'll roll the Genoa away. So,
That's enough, yeah?
yeah, that's plenty. So,
That's more, that's... Yeah, it was the main one.
will you shush? I was just about to explain that.
Sorry.
So, as I was about to explain, what were you just saying?
That you can see it's smaller, but actually it doesn't look that much smaller than that. That's because you've got the main Genoa reefed anyway. It's not fully out.
So, yeah, that's exactly what Kate says. The Genoa is already reefed, so already smaller than its maximum because it's slightly rolled up, and you can see how much smaller the working jib is. So we'd use that in heavy winds, and just like that, Kate's not camera shy anymore.
No, so that you can see, sorry, that it's a better shape because having the two up together, when we've reefed the Genoa, people say that if you reef the Genoa, it loses its shape, and that's
Yeah.
which has a working jib. And when you see sort of that one inside that one, you can see what a better shape it is because it's cut.
So now we'll roll up the Genoa, and we'll sail on this little jib. As it was our first go, it wasn't our tidiest operation, but we soon got the little sail set nicely and she trimmed up a treat. Not necessarily what you expect, tucked away up a river, a great big row ferry. It was quite tight, the bends we came around to get up here, so to see something like that tucked up here, a bit tighter for them, I think. After some mixed weather, there was another storm inbound, so we headed up the Truro River for sanctuary. And whilst we were up there, we had one last job to do.
Hi down there.
Hi.
What are you doing?
I'm just trying to clean the bottom as best I can because the copper coat is not working quite as well as we thought it was. And probably needs to be renewed when we get to wherever we go for the winter. So I'm scrubbing the bottom because it's a little bit furry. And we want as much speed as we can when we do cross Biscay for a 400-mile passage. Did you know that every knot will cost us 14 hours?
Yeah.
So yeah, so get the bottom as clean as we can and the propeller. I'd like to scuba to get down to the keel, but there's too much current in this river.
You see your legs are drifting out there.
So if we get a chance, we'll go somewhere else where I can scuba. But for now, I'll do as far as I can reach with each arm on each side, which is about 1 metre.
You've got a line around your wrist there.
I've got a line around my wrist and a sticky sucker on the side of the boat. And the line's running from the bow and I can hang off that. I've got a frosty windscreen scraper and a Scotch-Brite pad. And I did have a scrubby, but it has escaped.
Yeah. And that, you're gripping on with that handle?
Yes. Yeah, so that's a sucky handle, which you can just click on and click off and stick to the hull, and it makes a nice solid thing for you to hold on to. But I've got the rope as well, just as a backup. Okay, so this is another storm that we're hiding from. This is apparently Storm Evert, which is apparently the first named summer storm of 2021. At the moment we're just getting the rain. It's up to about 20 knots of wind at the moment, due to get up to 40 or 50 knots overnight, although we're hunkered down up in the River Fowl, quite well tucked up out of the way. We've backed the anchor right down with 3,000 revs on the 4-blade propeller, so I reckon if it can hold that, it can hold the storm. Fingers crossed. If it gets really, really bad, we may have to be up on anchor watch just in case anyone else drags.
As it turned out, it was a very lively night and we were up on anchor watch for most of it.
I don't suppose you can see much of me. There's a boat trying to anchor and they come ever so close just now. We actually had to sound the horn at them, hence we've got the engine running and all the lights on. Now they're still trying to anchor just upwind of us, which is going to make me very nervous overnight, so we'll have to watch for them dragging on us.
Being out there trying to lash down the kayak, which is always lashed down anyway, but it's so windy, it's picking up here. Just letting the kayak off the deck.
I've just come down where there's a little bit of light. You can see we're tracking on the plotter, showing that our anchor arc, we've got the track line, so it draws a line as the boat's moving, so we can quickly see if we drift off. Also got the anchor alarm running. We're touching 40 knots regularly now, so it's 45 knots at times. So I've actually got the engine running. There's not a lot you can do if you're anchored, but at least if the engine's running, I can try to dodge to one side or another if a boat comes at us. It's hit and miss, it's pot luck. But at least if the engine's running, that's my policy, is once it's regularly hitting 40 knots, engine on, standing by, everything's running, just in case. So we're holding fine, but just in case anyone else isn't really. So yeah, we made it through the night. Didn't go to bed till like 4 o'clock, so didn't wake up till 10 or 11 this morning, but it's all calmed down now. And yeah, so last night was quite lively. If we show you the tracking, so this purple splodge, this is everywhere we went while we were at anchor. And at one point it was all nice and tidy over here because the wind was really strong, so we were swinging on our anchor on that arc there. And then she just dillied off over here. It looked like she'd come off her anchor, got very close to the shallow, so that was a little bit emotional. But we just had to motor back into the middle there. She hadn't come off her anchor, but if you look at the size of this swing circle, if you spin it around, we had quite a lot of chain out. It would have put us into the shallows if we'd have swung that way. So Yeah, that's why you do an anchor watch, just in case things like that happen. This boat over here, Celeste. Oh no, she's not there anymore. Oh, she's still there, but she's not on AIS anymore. Boat behind us, and they nearly crashed into us earlier on in the evening, because I think they'd been crashed into, so that was all a bit emotional. But anyway, we're all done. Oh, the other thing about going into that shallow bit there was we didn't have an echo sounder, so we couldn't tell how deep it was. We've got the new echo sounder. Picked it up courtesy of Mum's address. Just hoping we can fit it without lifting the boat out of the water, depending on the construction of the hull, is whether you can fire the sound waves through the hull or whether you actually need the sounder in the water. So I'm very much hoping that we can fire the sound waves through the hull and then I can fit it without lifting the boat. Because if we've got to lift the boat, it's going to have to wait till the winter, and I'll have to get a stick over the side and clip it on when we need it most, or something like that. So we're all done, we survived, and now we're just going to head off out of the river to a beach nearby and sit there for a couple of days while we think about what to do next. With all the jobs complete, it was now time to try and find a weather window to get across the Bay of Biscay. We had hoped to cross from Falmouth straight to Coruña in Spain, but the weather didn't appear to want to play ball. Okay, so we were going to try and go across Biscay anytime now, but we've been watching the weather and there's been a couple of storms coming in. One in particular is out there.
It strikes me that this episode has gone on quite long enough, so you'll have to tune in 2 weeks' time to find out what we do next. In the meantime, if you enjoy our videos, please do subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up, as it helps us a lot. And here's a not so subtle clue as to what's coming next.